Let's discuss tuning methods. First off, I want to repeat once again, you cannot tune a bike by the spark plug color. These are two different tests that I've done in the past, and each time there's hardly any difference at all in the color for the different main jets that I used. The main thing that the plug will show you as far as color goes is how much mineral oil is in the engine oil you're using. This is the same bike, same amount of time being used, and look how much darker the plug is when he used AMSOIL Dominator versus when he used Klotz Super Technoplate. Dominator is 45% mineral oil. Technoplate does not have any mineral oil. And then when people abandon that, then they jump onto this bandwagon. You know, this is the lazy man's option number 2. Except it's not really lazy to cut off the threads of the spark plug. Why would you destroy such a good spark plug? So on this picture you can see that the main jet was changed from 170 to 175 to 180, and you see the bands basically have the same width. It's just an old wives' tale. I don't know why people stick to it. This is a good method right here, except that pricing nowadays is like $150, $200. If you just put it on there and run the dyno, they're not going to charge that much. But if you say, oh, I want to try 3 different main jets and maybe change the needle height a little bit, they're going to double the price then. So it works. It's a good way, but it's not within the budget of a lot of people. Another way is testing the oxygen and the exhaust gas. There's a certain level of oxygen that reflects the correct air-fuel ratio. But again, this is not a cheap solution. Prices start at $300 and go on up. I'm going to show you how to test for tuning without any fancy equipment, without paying a shop, just doing it yourself. The 4 factors involved in tuning are engine compression, squish velocity and squish volume, jetting, and ignition timing. All of these factors affect the time it takes from the spark ignition to the peak pressure in the cylinder. This graph right here shows the peak pressure in the cylinder happening at 15 degrees after top dead center. The green graph represents a quick burn where the ignition timing is late compared to the other one, a 10 degrees difference. And with a slow burn setup, you have a lower peak, but over here where the Conrad has a better leverage on the crank, you have more pressure to affect the crank rotation. I don't know exactly how much, how far from a typical setup like this you can go, how much lower, how much higher, but there's a zone here where you still get good top RPM. You still get good acceleration. Over here, these list the contributing factors for a slow burn and a quick burn, the compression, the squish velocity, the squish volume, the jetting, and what compensates for all these is the timing. I used to go by just finding the best main jet that gives the best top RPM power, which on some bikes can be tested for top speed, and on some bikes you can only do it with best acceleration. Like if you're on a road and there's a marker, well, there's two markers, and you use a stopwatch to time how long it takes to get from one marker to the next. The shortest amount of time is the best acceleration. So that's what I was thinking. That's the best way. And then I realized, wait. The ignition timing works with the jetting. Well, with all these factors right here, which you can see right here, ignition timing has to compensate for the burn time. Okay? So it's possible, if you stay within that range for best peak power, to have a quick burn at a retarded ignition timing, or a slow burn at an advanced ignition timing, and get the same results. On my two-stroke forum on Facebook, Nick Ryan told me about, when I was talking about using that jetting method, I had mentioned that the best jetting for a flat road was leaner than the best jetting going uphill, and that if you are in riding situations that have a bit of both, you're going to have to jet for somewhere in between those two. And he said that's exactly what we did on our championship winning bike, which won for 3 years in a row. He said that on Glen Helen, the half the track is hilly. So he would jet for a medium-sized hill. He would jet for best power on a medium-sized hill. Cool. Okay, so I'm just going to take it one step further than that. So what I did is test the 3 best main jets for my bike with 4 different ignition timings for each. And it was a lot of testing. It was an all-day thing. I did 20 or more wide open throttle runs. But I got all the data down, and then I made these graphs, and this shows the top RPM that I was able to reach for each test. And these colors indicate the different main jet sizes. So you can see that we've got an equally high result with the 85 jet at this ignition timing as I did with the 82.5 at this ignition timing. But the fact that this ignition timing is more retarded than this is a really important point. Okay. For whatever situation you run in, you know, whether or not you did flat road testing like I did, or you tested on a medium-sized hill like Nick did, you've got to find the main jet that gives the best power at the most retarded setting. On this graph right here, higher up is more retarded, down is more advanced. Okay, you can see with the 82.5, I got the most, it liked the most retarded ignition timing. So for me, I ride just in this town here, and it's all flat. There's one uphill road, but I only go on it just when I want to do something different. Normally I don't. So the 82.5 for the flat road testing was perfect. Okay. Even though when I did this setup here, I was able to have a little bit more oomph going up that one hilly road that I sometimes go up. So if you use 3 different CDI settings, if you have a programmable CDI, or you have to take the magneto off each time and rotate the stator coil plate, you do 3 ignition tests, and the spacing between each is 3 degrees for each of the 3 main jets you test. So 3 by 3 is 9. That's a set of 9 tests. I mean, if I told you to do 20 tests like I did, that would be ridiculous. No one would do that. But 9, I can see some people doing 9. So let's say your ignition is like way off. Or like, let me give you an example. I had a KX200, and they do everything on that bike just for moderate trail riding, okay? They even designed the CDI to not go very retarded on top RPM. So because it was basically set to advanced, when I changed the main jet to get the best power on a flat road, I went with a leaner jet. And I don't know what the time span was from when I changed the jet to when I seized, but I did eventually seize it. Why? Because advanced timing needs a longer burn. If you go too lean or you go too rich, you get a longer burn. So I didn't know that back then. I should have gone with a richer jet. I would have got the same good results, and the engine would be protected. If you suspect that your bike has too advanced ignition at top RPM to give a moderate power output, you should probably test it on that ignition setting and 3 degrees more retarded than that, and 3 degrees more retarded than that. So anyway, this is my page on the topic that I'm covering today, which is a tuning method that is 0 cost. You don't have to fork out $200 for a dyno session, and you don't have to fork out $300 for an air-fuel ratio gizmo. And this gives some more information and goes over engine oils also. Because in my way of thinking, a good tune is not only going to give you good power, but it's also going to be good for reliability. And engine oil selection affects the power, and it affects the reliability. Lastly, I want to mention my Squish velocity calculator, which not only calculates for the velocity, it also calculates for the squish volume. The squish volume, if it's not adequate enough, will have a negative effect on the gruntiness of the engine. Equally as the squish velocity, if it's not high enough, will affect the high RPM power. What is good about this calculator is it takes other factors into consideration before it recommends a velocity and a squish volume. It takes into consideration the compression ratio and the fuel octane, as well as the position of the exhaust port and the RPM. It gives recommendations on the ratio, on the volume, and on the velocity. And you can read it on the little cells here. You can look at the graph over here. And it also gives a detonation risk, which is this purple graph right here, which anything below 0 is good. So I highly recommend this calculator. It's only $15. And now all my calculators are also available for use on LibreOffice. It's an alternative to Excel. And it works just as good as Excel. This is my webpage, and I will link to it in the description of the video. So I guess that's it for now. Thanks for watching.